I'm here with something pretty exciting. It's a follow-up to a monitor that I bought last year. Yes, there's a refresh. You already know the model, but the GIGABYTE M32U ARM edition? Type C, built-in KVM? Built-in KVM, what? Oh yeah, we'll talk about that. IPS UHD, 144 Hz? IPS even? Yes. This is the monitor that's designed to clamp onto the side of your desk. It doesn't come with a foot, it comes with an arm. Now don't worry, this monitor has standard VESA 100mm mounting, but the stand it comes with is designed to clamp to the side of your desk as opposed to having a foot for your monitor, which is cool. But the features on this monitor are basically the same as what we saw last year. We've got a USB Type-C, DisplayPort, 2 HDMI, a USB 5 gigabit, that's 3.1 Gen 1, with 3 Type-A ports that are also 5 gigabit out the back of this monitor. There's no USB 2 ports or side USB ports or anything designed for HID or anything like that. But the KVM aspect of this can be really good if you are switching between a gaming computer and a work laptop, for example. Now GIGABYTE, in their instructions, they say to leave the monitor in its foam until you get the foot mounted, or in this case the arm mounted. That is good advice, because if there's any little imperfections or defects or a tiny little screw left on my desk, I'm currently damaging the LCD screen. Not good. It is actually a pretty clever arm mechanism. The first part to understand is that depending on how thick your table is, it is adjustable, even beyond just the length of the screw. I have a particularly thick butcher block desktop here that we use for the videos. It's gonna work out fine. Now you want it to be tight against the back of your desk and the thing fully installed. Now, here's the cool thing I couldn't show you before. How cool is that? And it's height adjustable a little bit. If you wanted to do a portrait configuration, you can. The stand really doesn't give you a lot of vertical clearance if you want to do that, but it is doable. You do have a few inches of height adjustment, plus you've also got the tilt, so you can move the monitor closer or farther away really easily. I like this arm design. Short of using a double-hinged pneumatic arm, you're not going to get much better than this. Definitely A+ fit and finish and feature set. Let's do some performance testing. Helping us do the latency analysis and testing is Andrew's OSRTT tool. Good job, Andrew, Tech Team TB. Now, as far as the display itself goes, not really a lot seems to have changed since my original review. Of course, the market for monitors has changed substantially since then. This monitor is still a premium price point, but it does offer some pretty cool features. For the panel itself, it does offer an sRGB mode, which is still the most accurate mode. One of the things that I was a little bit critical of originally was that in the sRGB mode, it's a little locked down. That's still the case here. Although, with this particular panel, I was not able to bring the red, green, and blue lines in line with the appropriate brightness. When I picked the sRGB mode, it was running at a brightness of about 30 or so, which was a little bit dim for both the Spider 5 and my new Spider 6 for my color calibration. So, a little frustrating. If you pick one of the custom modes, you can dial it in and get pretty much just the same sRGB color accuracy. Actually a little better if the colorimeter is to be believed, but sort of weird that the only thing you can really control in sRGB mode is brightness. I guess they assume that if out of the box it's factory calibrated for sRGB that you won't really need to do that. And it is pretty good out of the box. Like if you don't have any color calibration stuff, just set the sRGB mode in the OSD and adjust the brightness up a little bit and you're good to go. I used 65 for my particular panel to bring it up into what was most accurate. I'm also retesting the panel here since it's been on for a little while at this point, just to see if that makes a difference, because sometimes it does. Now in terms of our usual gaming monitor, gaming test the panel, like I say, a lot has changed in the last few years. Whereas this was class leading in terms of being an IPS panel, which is good for color accuracy, but also unprecedented speed out of an IPS panel for gaming and anything else that you might want to throw at it. It was a really good all-rounder. That's still really true. I mean, I think this is definitely an 8 out of 10 monitor, maybe 9 out of 10 in some regards. The problem is that there are a lot of gaming displays out now if you're more interested in just gaming, panels that will respond faster. We can see that with our OS RTT benchmarks. The results here are really good for an IPS type panel, and if you disable overshoot, then it doesn't actually overshoot anything, and you're able to maintain your color accuracy and everything else. If you do turn on overdriver, running it at a lower setting, for my eye, visually you're able to maintain how clean the text looks during text scrolling, but it's a little bit more rough when you dial it up so that the overdriver gives you a little bit better response time. It's always a little bit of a trade-off. But how cool is it that you can do that in software as opposed to having to pick, I'm going to buy this panel and be locked in with my choice forever. You can use this type of a panel and go in the on-screen display and change. It's okay, this week I'm going to try to get a lot of work done. I'm going to go in the on-screen display and I'm going to pick that I don't want any overdriver function. It's not going to overshoot, and it's going to be the best accuracy as far as colors go. Other times you can say, nope, I'm off this week, I'm going to do a bunch of gaming. You can go in the OSD, you can use the overdriver function, and at least for the first couple of settings in the overdriver menu, it gives you 5 levels of overdriver. That's pretty good. Then, yeah, you can get a little bit better response time for gaming. Other panel types will definitely still be even better, but there you go. The problem for Gigabyte is that the bottom is kind of falling out of these markets for ultra premium monitors. This is more of a workstation monitor that can game and gives you some work features, especially the KVM feature, but is more work oriented, let's say. And it does a pretty good job with that. It has one of the better on-screen menus. They've put a lot of work into it. A lot of manufacturers don't bother with the on-screen menu. The out-of-the-box defaults are sane. It comes with FreeSync Premium Pro, which is turned on, and as far as I can tell, that is actually working correctly. So your FreeSync Premium Pro experience with this panel will be very good. The pixel density, like philosophically, I like 32 inches with 4K. The number of pixels per square inch, like how big is stuff at 100% scaling, is basically the same on 32 inch at 4K as it is 27 inches at 1440p. I really like the pixel density at 2560 by 1440 and a 27 inch panel. I really like the pixel density at 32 inches with 4K. You can run 100% scaling. I know some of you have superhuman sight and can see 4K and 27 inches. I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the normal human beings. If you're a little bit older, you might find that you prefer, 37 inches, 42 inches with the native 4K. Yes, you can use display scaling. That's getting better all the time, but it's still a little bit of a dumpster fire on both Windows and Linux, especially on Linux if you're mixing your display scaling, where one display has some display scaling and the other one doesn't. It's just... There are pending patches for that have never been picked up, and it's a tragedy to see that on the Linux side. But for productivity and code and just having a beautiful monitor that's easy on your eyes, this panel is it. And the accoutrement around the panel is pretty unique with the features that Gigabyte bundles. Now for the KVM function, that's pretty interesting. Let's take a look at that. For me to demonstrate the KVM mode, you're going to need a laptop with a USB-C DisplayPort alt mode. I mean, you could use HDMI. HDMI is an option, but then USB input is a little bit of a problem. You'd need something that goes to Type-C for the USB input, which is a little weird. You'll need a Type-A to Type-B cable, which is bundled with the monitor. You could use a Type-C to B. That would work as well. And then you need to connect your devices. I've got my laptop and my gaming desktop. Wait, laptop, gaming desktop. There we go. Instead of connecting my keyboard and my mouse and my other USB peripherals, remember there's 3 Type-A ports on the underside of the monitor. You connect your peripherals to the monitor, and so the monitor is connected to the computer, and the monitor is connected to this computer via USB-C, which provides display and USB-C. Although the thing to keep in mind with USB-C is its reduced bandwidth. When you're in DisplayPort alt mode, you're technically in a mode where it's using 2 of 4 pairs for display and 2 of 4 pairs for USB, but display is bidirectional. Like mostly the laptop is dumping an insane amount of data to the display, so it's not really using the return path. So most of the time that's okay, except when it's not. Your mileage may vary I mean, 4K, 144 hertz, plus 5 gigabit USB on a Type-C cable is a real challenge. Now, the KVM feature on this monitor is much more handy than you might realize. In addition to being able to switch between a Type-C display device, where you get both USB and display on a single connector, and our gaming desktop, and being able to run our gaming desktop at the full fat 144 hertz, no problem. A little bit more of a challenge on a laptop. You could probably do 90 to 120 hertz. Your cable quality and length is going to matter a lot, but that's a story for another day. You can also use it in another mode where you use the USB-C port just for USB input. So you could use a Type A to C or a C to C cable to come from something like a PS5 or an Xbox. Now, one tiny note is that it uses DisplayStream compression for the HDMI, and so you can do 120 hertz from the Xbox Series S, but I'm not a console gamer, and so I think the PS5 is still a little bit of an issue if you're looking for 120 hertz. But this display can do 120 hertz on the HDMI side with the Xbox, the newer Xboxes. So, yay! And of course, FreeSync Premium Pro, so of course you get that. The KVM feature really super handy, and once your devices learn about the monitor, switching between them is reasonably quick. Now, the KVM feature alone is worth at least $100. And it's just because there's a dedicated KVM button on the back of the monitor. You hit the button, boom, it changes inputs. But you can program what inputs you want to switch between. Even though it's got 4 inputs, you can really only switch between 2 because it's only got 2 USB inputs. The USB-C is combined display and USB, or you can tell it in the menus, use the USB side of the USB-C connector plus an HDMI connector. So if you wanted to switch between a console, like an Xbox One S, and your gaming computer, you totally can. But this, with the USB-C connection, combination USB-C and display, it is pretty painless to switch between desktop and laptop. It's nice stuff. I wish more monitors had this feature, to be honest. This is a little bit of a differentiator. Oh, and one final note about the USB-C connection, doesn't provide power delivery, so you're still going to need to connect your laptop with another cable in order to power it, which actually is probably a good thing. The USB-C power delivery is a whole other can of madness. Looking at you, Surface Pro laptops, but it's probably better they don't. And there we go with the color test. Now, something that I didn't make more clear last time previously in the other review is that the sRGB mode gives you basically 100% coverage of sRGB. But this is because the monitor is capable of 90% of the DCI-P3 space, which is actually around 125% of sRGB. It's weird. Color space is an interesting thing. So just bear in mind that the sRGB mode will actually cost you a little bit of the punchy contrastiness, I guess, but you can support a fully 98-99% sRGB mode, no problem. If that doesn't float your boat, then you don't want to use the sRGB mode. You probably want to use one of the custom modes and use your colorimeter to dial it in. As before, there's a color profile. It's already on the level 1 forums for this panel, but also an updated one. So overall, the panel really hasn't changed since my previous review. It's just the mounting solution, which is pretty cool. It's a high-end monitor, it's good for work and play, but the competitive landscape has changed. One of the nearest competitors to this monitor, the Samsung G7, has a bazillion zone dimming array thing, different panel type, and it costs more than this panel still, but the pricing gap has narrowed somewhat. I still don't know that I would recommend a non-IPS type panel for people that are interested in color accuracy, but an IPS panel that can game is still pretty valuable. Although other technologies other than, IPS and VA are kind of in this grudge match, and maybe the LED based technologies are coming to save us all. I don't know, but I don't know, I just like playing with a monitor stand. The monitor stand is fun. I'm Willis Level 1. This is a quick look at the ARM edition of the M32U from Gigabyte. Signing out, you can find me in the Level 1 forums.